Hey guys, this is Jasmine from Solid Foundations Therapy. We are back with another monthly therapy tip. And so today we are going to be talking about the thing that I think makes most of us uncomfortable, which is, dare I say, vulnerability. It's something that has come up quite often in my personal life and even in conversations with my clients. And so I want to have the conversation with you guys. So I first think we need to just all of us, we will walk in what vulnerability looks like. We will move towards it. And this is our opportunity to do that. And so I think first we need to talk about what is vulnerability. And I love what Brene Brown, says about it. If you don't know who she is, she's an amazing woman who does amazing research about vulnerability and trust and what it means to be courageous. And so she says that vulnerability is the emotion that we feel when there is risk, emotional exposure, and uncertainty at place in us. And so if we have a temperature, if we have a pulse, most of us have been in uncertain, risky, uncomfortable, emotional exposing moments. And in those moments, we have probably all felt, whether or not we know it or not, the emotion of vulnerability. And so I just wanted to encourage you guys today with 3 to 4 things that we can start doing to move towards it in a way that it doesn't have to feel so daunting or so scary. Because I think that as sucky as vulnerability can be sometimes, it can be extremely freeing once we step into what it really looks like. And so first, we have to recognize those moments and we have to name them accordingly. And so when we find ourselves in discomfort, when we find ourselves at risk or in something that doesn't always make us feel all warm and fuzzy inside, I think sometimes we have to be open enough to name it what it is. And usually it's vulnerability, right? And so I want us to remind ourselves that we get to do vulnerability in small steps, right? We don't have to do vulnerability in grandiose moments, right? The small steps of, I'm gonna ask you, instead of saying, oh, how you doing and good, I'm really gonna ask you, well, how are you really, right? It's risky, it's uncomfortable, and most of us act like we don't really care. But if you're someone that I care about and you're someone that I deem worthy enough having that conversation, then how do I take that extra step? A small step. So just ask that question, right? And then we can move ourselves up. The other one is we got to start letting go of what people think of us. I think we will make excuses time and time again as to why we will not do it or why we will not show up in vulnerability, because we're always so concerned about what the other person on the receiving end is going to say or going to think. And the reality is that to live is to fall, is to fail. To live is to love and is to be courageous, and to be vulnerable is to do both. You are going to fail and you're going to fall sometimes, but you are also going to bask in what it is to be loved and to also give love and to receive what it means to be courageous in this lifetime. And vulnerability requires both. And the third thing about vulnerability is recognize that trust and vulnerability go hand in hand. And so I think it's really, really important that we just don't do vulnerability for vulnerability's sake. I love that Brene Brown says that we put some boundaries around our vulnerability. I'm a true believer that everyone does not deserve access to us in the same capacity, but we get to decide and figure out who gets to have those best parts of us. And so be mindful of those boundaries, assert them when you need to, and be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself in the process. And don't give up on yourself and those around you who you want to do that work with. I hope this was encouraging. I hope this was helpful. Let's continue to have these amazing conversations, and I will see you next time.